Welcome to the Lend Academy podcast, episode number 175. This is your host, Peter Renton, founder of Lend Academy and co-founder of Lend It Fintech. Today's show is sponsored by Lend It Fintech USA 2019, the world's leading event in financial services innovation. It's coming up on April 8th and 9th, 2019 at Moscone West in San Francisco. We've recently opened registration as well as speaker applications. You can find out more by going to lendit.com/USA. Today on the show, I'm delighted to welcome Jason Brown. He is the CEO and co-founder of Tally. Now, Tally are a very interesting company. They really focus on solving the massive problem of credit card debt in this country, but they're doing it in a different way to many of the online lenders. It's an app-based approach, and it's really, they describe it as, it's kind of like a robo-advisor for debt, where they help you manage your credit card debt. Or in actual fact, they manage it for you in ways that are optimal for you to really get debt free. So we go into that in some detail. We talk about how their product works, their approach to underwriting. We talk about Tally Advisor, their automated debt manager. We talk about the scale they're at and what the future holds. It was a fascinating interview. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Okay, so I'd like to get these things started by giving the listeners a little bit of background about yourself and what you've done in your career before you started Tally.
Well, this is my fourth company, and I really wanted my fourth company to be something that was personally meaningful to me. And one of the things that has really stuck with me from my childhood was our family we had a lot of financial stress. Money was always a problem in our life growing up. And, even though I'm fortunate to have gone a different path than my parents from at least a money perspective, that anxiety and that feeling of uncertainty still is there, that relic of childhood. So when I met my co-founder, Jasper, we actually built a previous company together, and he actually was auditing banks for PwC, actually in Europe. And, we were talking about how we could, build something that could really help people have a lot less stress in their lives. And we realized that if you could build a technology that could automate the way that people relate to their money, so basically not only figure out what's best for them, but really do the financial work for them, you would have this unbelievable power to make people just enjoy their lives better and just make the little moments be so much rewarding. And so we decided to found Tally and started working on credit card debt as our first problem that we were going to tackle with automation. And
so tell us about that. Why? What was the sort of the aha moment, or the force that sort of led to? What was the idea that led to it? Was this something that you saw others doing? The way you've approached it hasn't really been done before, at least not to my knowledge. And so, what was sort of the idea that led to this?
We were actually thinking 20 years out. And what we were thinking is, we just said, imagine the world 20 years from now. And our belief is that 20 years from now, everybody will have this invisible and ambient service that is mediating most of their relationship with their money. Mm-hmm. So it's figuring out everything for you, and it's doing all the work. And what we use as our kind of prototype are rich people. So if you're ultra wealthy, you might be in France, summering there, and you've got this team of people in some office park somewhere, and there's, the tax specialist and the accountant and, the investment advisor, and they're actually doing real work. They're sitting there in their cubicles and they're crunching numbers, they're moving money around, they're signing contracts, and they're only bothering the rich person in France when they need some kind of human input, like, hey, do you want to buy a house in Vail or something like that, right? And if you think about software has the power to take that advantage that rich people have and democratize it and provide it to everybody for free. Mm-hmm. And we said, that's what the future is going to look like. So if that's the future, how do you actually build to that? Because obviously we're not there at this moment. And we realized that if we tackled a really hard financial problem that a lot of people were facing, that would be a solid foundation for then automating the rest. So when we looked at all the problems to solve, we were staring at $1 trillion in credit card debt. just under half of all households have about $15,000 of debt. And there's no real solution there for folks. And we said, that's going to be the problem. That'll be our beachhead. We're going to go in and we're going to solve that problem. And then from there, we can start to automate the rest of people's lives.
Okay, so then let's dig into a little bit to what you've actually got today. And that is, you're attacking credit card debt. You're providing people with a line of credit product to help them manage that debt. Why don't you sort of explain how it all works and the principles behind it?
Perfect. Well, it starts at the very beginning. You go to the App Store. You download the app for free. You pull out your credit cards. You actually scan them in using your phone's camera. You pass a quick credit check. And from there, we actually give each customer a line of credit. But what's interesting about the line of credit is it's exclusively controlled by our algorithms, and our algorithms only use it to make you better off. So the times where the algorithms will use your line of credit is, number one, is to protect you from late fees. So there are $12 billion of credit card late fees every year in this country because only about 16% of people use auto pay for their credit cards. So the line of credit allows us to step in for people and make payments if for some reason they're not in a position to, so we can guarantee no late payments. Second, it moves balances from high interest rate cards over to Tally. So it will only move balances over to that line of credit when it saves people money from interest. And then finally, the way the algorithms work is they actually shave 10 to 15 years off of how long it takes somebody to get out of credit card debt, because it's managing everything properly, and it's helping shape the way that customers pay their total revolving debt so that we can get them out of debt faster.
Okay, so I want to dig into this a little bit so I completely understand it. So let's just maybe talk through an example where, like, a typical customer might have 4 credit cards. Interest rates might range from 24% down to 14%, say, and they download the app, they scan the cards, and then they've got decent credit. They always pay on time. Mm-hmm. Let's just say maybe it's $12,000 spread over these 4 credit cards. And do you, firstly, I guess, you've got to decide how much line of credit you're going to give. Do you give someone the full 12,000, or really do you say that we can only really give them 5,000? So I guess question is, how do you decide how much to give? And then what actually happens once you've given them? Do you take over paying all of them or some of them, or how does it work?
Yep. So we have full underwriting and risk management, and it's all automated. So one of the things that was, I guess, we underestimated is we initially thought it would take us about a year to build the technology to make this possible. And we were only off by 300%. It took us 3 years, and we actually had to build an entire bank core from the ledger up. So every aspect of Tally's technology we built from scratch. And one of those components is instant underwriting. So it takes into all your information from your cards, your credit file, everything, and it figures out, hey, what is a fair APR for you based on your credit risk, and what's the right credit size? So that varies based on people's credit worthiness. And let's just use the example that you gave us, and let's just simplify and say that Tally gave you a $10,000 line of credit. So what it would do immediately is it would move over $10,000 of balances on day one from the highest APR cards. And I think you said they range from 20 to 14.9. So it'll clear out balances on the 3 with the highest APRs, and then it will move over 1,000 from the one that had a little lower APR and leave on 2,000. Okay, so now you still owe $12,000 of debt, but 10,000 is now to Tally and 2,000 is to your lowest APR card. What happens from here is you pay Tally for everything, and then Tally pays your cards. So you keep using your cards like normal. You get your points and rewards, and then you pay Tally. Tally pays your cards. So let's say that you spend on average $2,000 of new spend per month on your cards. Tally is going to recommend that you pay, let's say, $3,000 total. So you pay $3,000 to Tally. Again, Tally pays off the $2,000 of new spending, and now it can move over another $1,000 from that card that still has a balance. So it's always the central hub of the spoke of your cards, and Tally's helping you figure out how much you should pay, and then it's always paying your cards, and it's perpetually goes on and runs the algorithms every single day.
So they don't have to, have you worked out with the credit card companies. When you've got to go in, log in, put in your auto pay. You have this. So you're actually, if Tally's paying it, then it's coming out of Tally's account, it's suddenly not coming out of the customer's account. As you said, most people don't actually have automated payments set up. So I guess that's a moot point, but for most people, for what you're doing is are you automatically paying back that credit card? I mean, you said it's all automated, right? So how does it, are you sending money to the bank each month for that credit card?
We actually are sending money to the banks potentially multiple times per month. So again, this is all about optimizing. So every single day, the algorithms wake up and say, hey, can I move more balances from any of these cards over to Tally if it'll save the customer interest? And what customers really like is the fact that they go from before Tally, they have on average 48 due dates per year. So again, 48 opportunities to either miss a payment or 48 times where you have to do math and figure out how much can I pay, how much should I pay? And that gets boiled down to we make one recommended payment every single month for you. And recently this summer, we launched a feature called Tally Advisor. And what's cool about Tally Advisor is it actually lets you collaborate with our algorithms to set a debt-free date. So it's the first robo-advisor for debt. And it's similar to like a retirement date where you say, hey, I want to retire at 62, and this is how much money I need to save. This is similar, except our algorithms are actually helping you come up with a realistic date for when you can be out of debt based on your income, all your monthly spending, your existing debt load. And then it comes up with a custom recommended payment for you every single month. And then you just have to press one button each month, which is to say pay the recommended amount. Or if you want to customize it, you can. So we really like to make sure that customers once a month can come into Tally and they can see everything, and they press that button to say, hey, I'm going to pay that recommended amount, and then they pay Tally.
Right. So I guess the mere fact that they've downloaded your app and they've scanned their credit cards means they're motivated to get out of debt, I imagine, because the temptation is, and we've seen this with some of the lending platforms where someone says they want a debt consolidation loan, and, when you look at their utilization 6 months later, it's back to where it was. So I guess maybe you could give me a little bit of a profile, maybe even a little psychological profile of your customers and how they're different to the general population.
I think so. I do believe that people come to Tally wanting a solution to their credit card debt, but I also think that people go to personal loans wanting a solution. It's just that personal loans get people into more debt. I mean, that's just the reality. And I don't actually know if it's because the people are different or because the mechanism is not actually helping solve their problem. The data suggests that people, after they take out a personal loan to debt consolidate, are within 12 to 24 months, they are in substantially more debt. Usually they've paid off their cards with that personal loan, and now the cards are back to where they were. And it has to do with the fact that it's not actually solving the underlying problem. It's not helping them manage their financial life any better. Whereas Tally is saying, hey, we now have one central hub, one view, and we're going to help you set a goal for when you're going to be out of debt. And we're going to set a recommended payment for you every single month that's not only based on your debt load, but also based on your new spending, so that we can nudge you to make sure that you're actually making progress collectively, not just moving, debt from one pile to another.
Right. Okay. So then I'm interested in the behavior that you've seen since you launched, and maybe you could tell us when you launched. I know it hasn't been that long. So, but I'm curious, because what I wonder about is people want to get out of debt and they sign up for Tally, and then someone invites them out for dinner and they go spend $100 on an expensive dinner that they really shouldn't have, and they can't afford then to pay. So tell us a little bit about, are people sort of sticking to this kind of, firstly, are you seeing their credit card balances actually go down, or what data have you seen so far?
Well, we've been really energized by what we've seen. So we've officially been live for about a year. So we launched in October. So it took us about 3 years to build the technology, and we've got a year of being live. And when we were in the beta phases, we played with a lot of different experiments. And the thing that we found most powerful is if you recommend people pay more, they pay more. And if they pay more, they spend less the next month. it's actually really interesting because they feel like they've quote unquote spent. So if I pay, let's say, an extra $300 towards my collective revolving and new spending, then the next month they feel a little poorer, so they seem to be more disciplined. And by just getting people to pay more every single month, we see them spending less the next month. And on average, our customers are on track to be out of debt 10 to 15 years faster than they were before they came to Tally. So we're really energized by the fact that by helping people have one view and one recommended payment, we're actually shaping their behavior in a positive way. And our mission is to make people first less stressed, and then secondly better off financially. So this is really core to our mission.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to switch gears and talk about technology a little bit, because you said it took you a lot longer to build this platform, and then obviously there's lots of data points here. Tell us how you're approaching the underwriting, and I'm particularly curious about artificial intelligence that is behind some of the models that you're building. Maybe you could give us a little bit of color on that.
Well, let's see. Maybe it'd be helpful just so the listeners know what our business model is. So the way that we make money is by charging interest. So it's free to use the app. We don't charge anything. We don't charge any fees, no late fees, no overdraft, no penalty. So we don't make any money off of any fees. The only time we make money is when we charge somebody interest. Mm-hmm. And the only time we charge somebody interest is when our rates are lower than the card rates, which is in most cases. The exceptions being sometimes people have promotional offers for, let's say, 6 or 12 months. And Tally is really smart, and it leaves those balances on the card until that promo rate expires. So what Tally is our interests are completely aligned with the customer and making sure that we are getting them lower rates than what's on their cards. The way that we provide lower rates is we're actually borrowing money from banks in bulk and then passing on those savings on to customers. And what we found is the way to get the cheapest money from banks is to actually have a more traditional underwriting model. Since banks are more likely to trust an institution that is using an approach to underwriting that they understand, right, then it actually turns out that it's better for the customers to have a more traditional model. So that's the approach that we've taken, and we've actually seen in the last, I'm sure you as well, seen in the last couple of years, there's been more of a move to more traditional underwriting. There were a couple of years where everybody was talking about all this alternative data, and I think it's turned out to be that a lot of folks have come more to the center and have a more traditional approach. Okay,
so then that's the underwriting piece, and I guess one thing on that, I mean, what percentage of the time, or like, I imagine there are some people, even without like removing the promotional offer, I mean, you must get some cases where your rates are just going to, either they've got a fantastic deal on a credit card, or they're loaded up on all relatively low interest credit cards. I mean, what percentage of the time can you provide lower interest rates than what the customers are doing right now?
In the vast majority of cases, Tally is lower than what the rates are on the cards. But there's certainly instances where somebody has either a promotional rate or a card that's just a really low APR card. And what's great about Tally is it's smart. So it actually still pays that card, but it'll only pay the minimum. And then when you pay Tally will allocate the right amount of money to the right card. So if you still have outstanding debt, that low APR card will be the very last one to get paid off. So we'll actually pay off Tally before that card, because it makes more sense to get rid of the higher Tally APR than, let's say, this, really low APR that you have on the card. So Tally always does mathematically what's in your best interest, even if it's not necessarily in Tally's best interest to do it.
Okay. And so when you've got, like you've said, you've been live for a year and you're obviously in beta for some time before that, are you finding that this is really a set it and forget it? Are people really, I'm just wondering how much they're actually fiddling with things, or whether they're trusting. Are you seeing like at the start, people fiddling with kind of the way things are, like what your recommendations and like you said, you've got this Tally Advisor now, which really, becomes, like you said, a robo-advisor for debt. I guess what I'm most curious about is the trust, because this feels like it's an exercise in trust. How quickly do people trust what Tally is doing?
Yeah, I mean, using Tally requires, you nailed it. It requires trust. You think of most finance apps, the home screens have lots of charts and graphs and data. Maybe they'll have recommended credit cards to get or ads or things like that. Whereas Tally's home screen is literally just a picture of a person with their feet on the table with a cup of coffee. That's it. There's not a lot of interface because we've automated everything on the back end. And what we've seen, the most surprising statistic that we've seen is that we have 99% monthly retention of our customers. So once they set everything up with Tally and they get it off of their back, it's not like they want that work back. They're like, oh, I'm really glad that I don't have to deal with that. And so they are trusting Tally to do it. And one of the things that we've seen is important is you can, in the home screen, you can scroll down, you can tap on this rocket and it fires up and then it shows you how much money you've saved. And we can, since we're controlling all of the money, we can quantify exactly how much money they've saved so far. And on average, we're saving customers about $7,000. So we've really focused our brand around showing results, like showing that we are actually doing this work for you. The payments are showing up on your cards on time. You're seeing savings. And from there, people check it about once a week. So they like to see the central view because they can also see all the new spend on their cards. And we've just observed that people like taking a look about once a week. And then obviously once a month, you at least have to tap the button to pay Tally so that we can keep everything running for you.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So then how many states are you operating in today?
We're in about 20 states and we cover about 75% of the population. Mm-hmm. And this actually relates back to a critical early decision because at the time, most fintechs were partnering with banks. Right. So they would effectively borrow a bank charter and that would allow them to access the whole US right away. And we deemed for ourselves, since we were trying to create this truly new customer-centric experience, that if we had to work through an existing bank that had old technology, that we really wouldn't be able to deliver the experience that we wanted. So we actually decided to have the rather painful and slow route of going state by state to get licensed in every state. So we've literally been at it for 3 years, and we finally got to 75% of the population. And we'll finish off the rest of the U.S. next year. But it's crazy how just like, again, if your goal is to have a screen with not a lot of interface, then there's all this immense financial regulatory work you have to do as well as technology work to make that experience possible for the customer.
Right. So you're literally going through one by one and getting your own license for each state. It sounds like. Okay. So
yep.
So the first time I actually heard about you guys was in an article by Ron Lieber in the New York Times. And the timing was interesting because, and I don't know whether this was a PR push that you did or is this just something that came up, and it was obviously mentioned in the article. It came out just like, I think it was a week or two after the Lending Club issues of May 2016. And so I'm curious about, obviously getting in the New York Times with Ron Lieber is a massive win because huge readership. Was that a net positive, and how sort of did that kind of impact sort of the way you kind of ramped up?
That was a huge win for us. Having the New York Times, we actually on B1 on the print edition, which my mom thought was pretty cool. Print still matters, at least to parents. And what we liked about that is the first generation of fintech was more about filling in the gaps that had been left by the big banks after the financial crisis.
Right.
That all these big banks had pulled back, and then fintechs came in and said, well, hey, banks aren't lending there. I'm going to lend there. And so they jumped in, and there wasn't really any technical innovation. It was just, hey, there's a gap in the market. I'm gonna fill that gap. The second generation is about true technology innovation and about doing things that banks just are not good at. They're not great at automation. They're not great at doing things that cross the entire financial industry. They're great at doing things individually in their own bank, but not across institutions. And so this second wave is about automating people's financial lives. And there's a lot of folks that started on the investment and the saving side, and there's folks that have done some great work there. Obviously, we chose to start on the debt side, but we've seen investors and customers really gravitate towards companies that are trying to innovate on the technology and the experience side of things. And, we just announced our Series B this summer, which was $25 million led by Kleiner Perkins. So it brings our total raise up to $42 million. So we've definitely seen investors be pulled towards companies that are trying to do hard things on the tech side of things.
Right. Okay. So I'm curious about, you've mentioned that you borrow this in bulk from banks. How can you just describe exactly how you are funding? Obviously, you're not, I presume you're not using equity to fund any of these lines of credit. Where are you getting your financing from?
One of the things that makes this business model harder than it would be otherwise is the fact that there is this algorithmically controlled line of credit that's revolving, and it makes it a lot harder to fund. And so we actually, I don't know if you had seen the announcement, but Erica Dorsman, she was previously the co-head of capital markets for SoFi. And last year, she literally did billions of dollars of transactions for SoFi. Mm-hmm. So we had her join our team to help build out the finance side of our business and to have a more sophisticated approach to doing the capital markets than we were already. And so we've taken an approach where we're working with small regional banks and we're working with bulge bracket banks simultaneously to have them lend us money so that we can provide savings to our customers.
Okay, so and what I'm curious about what is sort of there's lines of credit, so there's no, it's not like an open-ended term, but what is sort of a blended average interest rate that you're charging your customers?
It depends based on every single person's credit. So Tally is pricing every single person based on the likelihood that they will default. And what's different compared to the cards is most credit cards just charge a really high interest rate. So the average APR for people with 720 FICOs and above in the U.S. is over 18%. So they just charge really high rates, whereas we're actually saying, hey, we want to give you a fair rate based on your individual credit worthiness. And so every person has a different rate, with the average savings being about $7,000 per customer. So we obviously can only make money when we save people money on their credit cards. So it really keeps our interest aligned with theirs.
Right. Got it. Okay. So then you have, I guess you're really here in this, in the debt space, and you're really focusing on that. But so who do you actually see as your competitors? Because you've talked about this as sort of just an entry point. And I really don't know anyone who's approaching this problem quite the same way as you. But who do you view as your competitors?
In the short term, we don't have competitors. We actually view credit cards as our competitors. It's kind of interesting because Tally really separates the benefits of credit cards from the burden. So you keep using your cards, you get all the points and rewards. We're just making it so you don't have to worry about high interest and late fees. But it's just so easy for people just to, even though it's bad for them, just to stay with the status quo. So there's over $1 trillion of credit card debt, as I've mentioned before, because it's just really easy to leave it there. And, downloading an app, takes some energy, and obviously you have to trust Tally. So just getting people over that initial hump is really the thing that's holding people back. And we've grown primarily through organic word of mouth. So since we have such high satisfaction, people tell their friends about Tally, and we grow that way. In the long run, though, we think there's a lot of competition. We believe that many companies are working towards this end goal of a fully automated financial experience, and different companies have just selected a different beachhead. And so the folks that are doing automated savings or investing, we think that they're racing towards this fully automated point, as are we. So in the long run, we feel like there's a lot of competition there. It's just right now it's not exactly clear because everybody has selected different strategies, but the strategies aren't transparent yet.
Right. I had Ken Lin from Credit Karma on a few weeks ago, and he spent a good chunk of the interview talking about autonomous finance, which is similar to what you're talking about as well, where really, if we can do autonomous driving, managing finances is a lot simpler than driving a car. And so we really should be able to do that. And so I can see that it's exciting times for consumers. That's for sure, because I can really see that there are going to be choices here to really get significant help in managing all areas of your business. So I guess we're almost out of time, but one last question. Like, what's next for you guys? I mean, you've talked about you've obviously got the credit card piece, which is a huge piece, and there's a huge amount of runway there. And really, until the credit card revolving credit numbers come down from, below 1 trillion, there's a lot of help that you'll be able to provide people. But do you have like a logical next step that sort of fits in with that, or what is next for Tally?
Yeah, so we're with the Series B that I had mentioned. One of the key things is just needing to hire a bunch more engineers. I mean, we started this year at I think 15 people, and now we're almost at 60. So a lot of this has to do with just hiring a lot more engineers to be able to actually do build the technology so that we can expand outside of credit cards. And we're focused right now on laying that next foundation to be able to broaden our product offering. And that's what we're focusing on next year, now that we're building out our team to be much more robust.
So no hints on what that's going to be yet.
Yeah, we'll have to get my co-founder Jasper. He's our head of product. We'll have to get him on here.
Okay.
He likes to play it close to the vest on that front.
Okay, understood. Well, on that note, we'll have to sign off. I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Jason.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Peter.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
We have this massive $1 trillion revolving credit card balance that keeps going up, despite the fact that we originate billions of dollars in personal loans every year to help pay off some of this credit card debt. I think one of the things that I really like about Tally is that they're addressing the problem head on, and they're doing it in an automated way, so it sort of takes less willpower from the consumer, and I think that's really key. And Jason talked about that a little bit. But until we see that credit card debt go down, in fact, we were joking after we stopped recording. We were joking afterwards. It's like, we really should be. I told them that you could just focus on credit card debt until it comes down to like $800 billion or $700 billion, because it's such a big problem. And I think this sort of approach is novel, and it's a win-win. And I think it prevents those people from, some people obviously take out a personal loan and then go back into debt. I think Tally will help stop that kind of behavior, and I think that will be a great thing for the consumer. Anyway, on that note, I will sign off. I very much appreciate you listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Today's show was sponsored by Lendit Fintech USA 2019, the world's leading event in financial services innovation. It's coming up on April 8th through 9th, 2019 at Moscone West in San Francisco. Registration is now open, and we're also taking speaker applications. You can find out more by going to lendit.com/USA.